Hello, 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 beautiful friends. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, bringing you another video on how to raise your vibration so you can live your best life. I am here with one of my favorite people, Kai Ashley. Kai Ashley is an EFT breathwork tapping master. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, welcome, Kai.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. We have a fun topic today, and that is abundance and how our beautiful spiritual community somehow has the challenge of moving through lack and belief in self-worth and taking the reins of their financial future. And so, Kai, what are your first initial thoughts on this kind of topic?
Well, my first initial thoughts is that when you really understand that you literally create your reality, or more you select it from different dimensions that already exist, then it becomes a lot easier. And I don't know if this is just me, but I've always noticed with money, when I say yes to something that's important to me, especially if it's investing in healing, coaching, something that's like literally important for me, I never miss the money in hindsight. It always expands, it always grows, and it always improves my life in ways that opens up opportunities. So it breaks my heart when I see people say, "Oh, I sort of have the money, but I can't afford it because I don't know if any more will come." But it's that belief system that stops the money from coming. When you take the leap of faith and say yes, that's when more money will show up.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I'm sure, like you, people, we're talking to people all day, every day, and it's amazing how consistent it is from conversation to conversation that people will say, I had one client who she was saving and she was, working towards having this nest egg so that she could move out of town and move to her dream city. And something happened. She needed to move early. She didn't have this nest egg that she had planned, and yet the door was open. It was time to move. It was very clear. And she told herself that, no, I have to sleep in my car and just stay in this town until I have this nest egg. And it was amazing how she was willing to sacrifice everything she deserved and all of her self-love and self-care because of this belief that I had established this certain amount that I had to have, and I can't go until I have it. And yet, as soon as we were able to shift the focus that you have the money right now, you have the money right now to go get a home, and you
Mm,
deserve to have this home, you deserve to have a bed to sleep in, and it's the
yeah.
middle of winter, it's freezing, and so there was a belief, like you said, that this perspective, the story that we tell ourselves is, I only have this one pen, and if I give away this pen, I have no more pens. But
Yeah.
what we forget is there's like a whole abundance of pens everywhere you go. You've got pens, right? And so
They're everywhere.
the pens will keep coming. And you have such a great point that I have invested in multiple courses and coaching programs, and never once have I looked back and said, "Oh, I wish I had that $5,000," right? That
Yeah.
more comes because of it. And when we demonstrate, here's my pen, take my pen, the universe says, okay, we'll give you more pens because you're moving that energy through you instead of holding on to it and never getting any more. So
Yeah,
belief
it
is
really does
huge.
work like that. And money for most people is a lot more consistent than they realize. So when like a lot of people probably know about focusing on the feelings of having money. Now that doesn't mean that you don't also take action, because if you truly have faith and if you truly believe that you can have what you want, you can do what you want, that it is safe and allowed and all that, you'll be propelled to take action. But we also still need to be able to feel somewhat in our body, not necessarily to take the action, but at some point you're going to feel like you have abundance. And when you allow yourself to tap into that place where you're like, you know what, I am supported, I am guarded, I am guided, this is all going to be okay, and then you move forward in faith-based action, things show up for you in the most marvelous ways. But you have to be willing to take the first step. You can't say, when I have the money, then it will change. It will never, ever, ever change until you act like, until you make the decisions you'd make if you trusted the money were coming in.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point earlier too about Abraham Hicks and how
Mm,
she instructs that we only act from a feeling good place. And I agree that when we feel good, we are manifesting amazing things. Joy is our compass. Feeling good, I'm definitely not discrediting that necessarily, but there are a lot of people who don't take action until they feel good. And I really love that you brought that up earlier, that that really hinders a lot of people. And what are your thoughts around that?
It really does. I believe that Abraham Hicks has a lot of great information about how the universal laws work. But when it comes to the actual human processes, unless you're in a really good place and don't have a lot of trauma, then they're not really going to work for you, because it's not getting yourself into a good place and waiting for a year to make a phone call, which I heard there's a whole story in one of the people that got up in her, what they call it, like seminars. It's about understanding that you can actually take the faith-based action even when you're in fear, but it's moving forward in that faith-based action even when you're scared that then creates the results. So it's really important to understand, like, you're gonna feel scared. Like, let's say that you want to do videos, but you feel held back and resistance and you just keep wanting to feel good enough to do them. It's never going to happen. You have to start doing them. Even if you start doing them practice that you never release, but you have to start doing them before you feel ready, when you're cringing, when you're crying, when you just like wish that it wasn't happening. But part of you knows that it's what you would be doing if you were successful and if you trusted. So you have to start doing that now, which builds competence, and competence is what builds confidence. And then confidence is what puts you into the vibration of abundance. So you don't need to feel great and inspired. Inspired action isn't about feeling great. Inspired action is about knowing the step you'd take if you already had the thing you wanted, if you already trusted, knew you were enough. You tune into that step. You're like, well, actually, I'd be making videos, I'd be doing this. Oh, but I'm scared. So what? Just make the damn video, release it, not perfect, cringe about it, release another one, and then you'll start going, and then things will start working out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's known in psychology too that exposure therapy works. Now,
Mm.
nobody likes that. Nobody wants to hear that, but that's the truth of it is as
It
you
is.
expose yourself to the thing that is causing you the traumatic response, you normalize the feeling, and each time it will
Yeah.
get a little bit easier and it will get a little bit more comfortable and you'll get a little bit better. And if anybody's thinking about starting a YouTube channel, nobody's going to see your video in the first place. So
Yeah. And you can always delete them later.
it doesn't really matter. And if anything, people are going to love you for your realness and for showing up and being seen and being braver
Yeah.
than they feel in that moment. And it's another really key point that you kind of mentioned was trauma, that we oftentimes anybody who's experienced complex trauma, and complex trauma is very different than one traumatic situation. It's more of a
Mm.
long-term sustained feeling of being unsafe or not having your needs met or receiving that subconscious program that somehow you're not enough. And
Mm.
many of us, we don't have an actual number. There's not a lot of research done on this, but we know that it's greater than 50% of the population struggles with
Loads.
complex trauma, which leads to unworthiness, right? So that
Yep.
fear of being seen, the fear of being judged, the fear of rejection, all of these things are extremely common. And the majority, a vast majority of our population struggles with unworthiness. So you're
Mm-hmm.
definitely not alone in it. But I think what's really key about that is that it will create sort of this conundrum that what you want is to be loved and to be respected and to contribute and to be valuable. And yet, the very thing you need most is hindered by the fact that you feel unworthy and you're afraid of being seen. And it's this tug of war that is happening inside of you. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the spiritual community will hear this voice that says, just stay here and heal. Just work on healing a little bit more. You know, perpetual hermit mode is
Mm.
preventing massive amounts of talent and beautiful people from stepping into their life purpose and assisting in building heaven on earth, because what they hear, they think is a guide telling them just stay here and heal, and really it's the voice of trauma.
Yeah.
And
The voice
trauma,
of fear.
yeah, fear, unworthiness, all of that, it will lie to you and it will seem very, very real. And your nervous system will tell you, you have to stay here to stay safe, right? And it's that very thing that we have to move through to be able to step into our life purpose, build heaven on earth and become the world's resources of the abundance need to be managed by people with good hearts, and we need more people to step into that ownership, that it is not spiritual to be in poverty, that money is not a bad thing. It's just an
Hmm.
energy, and it's part of creating heaven on earth. And we signed up to be here, right? That the world
Yeah.
works on money. This is how the world makes money. Sorry, money makes the world go round, and that's just the reality of it. And so
Yeah.
there's so much here that I want to unpack.
Well, the thing that comes to me for that is to bring up the saying, money is the root of all evil. Well, first of all, the actual saying is the love of money is the root of all evil. And to me, what that means is when you love money over people, and so therefore you will use and betray and limit, like as in like maybe like steal and hurt and kill people for money, well, that's obviously evil. But money itself is a tool, and it's just going to bring out your actual personality. So if you're a bit of a butthead, you're going to be more of a butthead when you have more money. But if you're actually a good-hearted person, just like you said, you're going to use that money. And the more money you have, the more good you can do. And actually, the whole grounded teachings of Jesus in the Bible is, it's literally all about how to be prosperous. It's about how to be rich, how to expand life.
Yep.
Because God, life, the divine, it's all about expanding. It's all about creating. It's all for life, for more. But yet we're being tricked through spiritual warfare over thousands of years to believe, first of all, that we're disconnected from God, that it's just some person in the sky, that it's not actually us and not within us. And we're being tricked to believe that money is bad and that all that sort of thing, but it's just a big lie. So the first thing we have to do is realize that money is just a tool, and it's also our birthright. Like when we don't hide, like when I say hide, I mean like when we don't contract internally saying it's not safe, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I'll be judged, I'll be sent to jail, I'll be all these sorts of things. When you don't have those stories, then you will start moving forward in faith, and receiving money will be so much easier. But like we said before, you don't have to be in perpetual healing to get rid of all those stories first. You simply need to give yourself permission to start choosing your desires, understanding that they might turn up differently than you think. So don't freak out when problems start to come up, because those problems will often be the stepping stones to what you want. So if you say you want a big, beautiful house or something, and then you get an eviction notice for your current place, instead of freaking out, you realize that's literally a gift from God. That's literally the stepping stone taking you to the solution that you want. And then you'll be able to end up through some random means finding a better place if you don't freak out. But if you freak out and you go in and you withdraw, then you can't see the opportunities. You don't talk to the people. You don't go to the store to meet that random person or see that sign. So I don't know where I started with this, but I think that's a good place to end.
No, no, it's perfect because to your point, you have a choice in that moment of what you're going to create because we are creators and we're creating all the time. And if we're not creating with intention, we're misfiring like a gun, right? So in that
Mm,
moment, I've received the eviction notice. What emotion is going to emanate from me, right? I can have the freak out, holy crap, I have no
yeah.
money, I'm going to be on the street energy, or I can have the holy crap, this is an amazing blessing. Look at my request is manifesting already. I wonder, right? Act in curiosity and fun
I
and
wonder.
excitement. I wonder what's going to come next. This is amazing and awesome. And right, you can feel the lightness in your body and the lifting. And you said so many good things. I hope I can remember to touch on them all because absolutely, abundance is our birthright. We are made in the image of our Creator. We are little mini God sparks, right? That we are meant to create. And that you're right, that the biblical teachings is all about how to use this manifesting machine that we've been given, right? So emotion is energy in motion. And so we're supposed to be moving this through us all the time because it's going to create one way or the other. So we may as well direct it consciously. And yes, money is not evil, and yes, I agree, the love of money is definitely a problem. We have to understand our value and worth, that we're not an accident, that we're not separated from God, that we have purpose. We are here with intention. We are perfectly imperfect for the thing we were made for our purpose, right? And as we start to step into this, we move money through us, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that we hold on to. That's when the problems start to arise, right? We're
Yep.
afraid, and is it going to leave me? And am I going to have more? And will I have enough? No, we as spiritual beings need to ask for what we're worth so that we can then distribute it, right? And so we can keep it moving
Mm-hmm.
and flowing through the right conduits and the right channels who are not going to hold on to it and hoard it, right? And so it's an energetic conversation, right? That
Yep.
we have to start looking at it in terms of how do I feel, right? So if I have to pay my bills, do I feel clenching and yucky and holy crap and I don't have this money? Or do we feel like, yes, thank you for this opportunity to demonstrate how supported I am. Thank you for the money to pay my bills. I know more is coming to me, right?
Yes.
And making the choice to have different thoughts. I like to oversimplify our manifesting mechanism, but essentially it starts with the belief. So the belief is very subconscious, below conscious, until we start to bring it to our conscious awareness, which we can. And when we see it with our conscious awareness, just like in in um, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the term, but basically our our consciousness can shift atoms from particles to waves, right? Quantum physics. So
Mm-hmm.
just by watching our belief, we can say, oh, I see that that is a limiting belief. So then I'm going to choose different thoughts because from the belief comes the thought. From the thought comes the chemistry that floods our body. That fuels the emotion and that becomes the energy in motion, which is our attraction point, right? And so it is belief, thought, response in body, emotion, attraction point. And it's just this cycle. So we just have to start to look at how do I perceive money? And when someone approaches me and says, I can help you step into your life purpose, and I have this really amazing support program, and you say, oh, I really want that, but I can't, right? There is
Mm-hmm.
that brick wall right there of I can't. And so catch that, shift it and change it, and demonstrate by offering your pen and saying, I know another will come to me. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
energetics of how does that feel? How do you align to that emotion in your body? And how do you know you need to shift it? Because there is an intelligence that will tell you how to do that. So I get excited
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Catching our beliefs is so important. So one thing I want to say is a lot of people get upset with themselves when they try to think positive and then they think negative, but then they think negative because they thought negative. So you have to prepare yourself that when you decide you're going to change your beliefs, which is like what you agree to be true, with the thoughts that you think in your head, just what you agree to be true is what your beliefs are. You have to be prepared that they're automatic. They're like a jack in the box. They're going to spring up and you're going to hear, well, I can't afford this. I can't do this. Your job is to not get frustrated at that. Just say, oh, okay, well, what if I could? What if I did trust? What if I knew that I was guided and protected? What if I knew that I'm not just here alone and I actually have a higher power that literally is me, through me, surround me, above me, and within me? Then you have to like, so you get the negative thought come in, but then you start opening it up through like asking questions. Well, what if I could? What if I did trust? What if it was possible? And then this will unlock your conscious mind and it will allow you to actually make new decisions. So be prepared. The negative's going to keep happening, but it's a good idea to get into the mind of people who are better with money, who feel free with money, and just notice their attitudes when they talk about money and start trying to actually think those thoughts, write them in your journal every day, try to agree with them and see examples in your life where it's actually true. And over months and years, it's not this quick thing, but over months and years, you'll start seeing these really big changes. But you don't have to wait to take action. You should be taking um, faith-based actions that feel right to you all along the way, ignoring what you should do, what the rules say, what other people do, and just have a conversation with yourself and with God or with the divine if you prefer, and actually be listening for the answer instead of talking to the answer. Like, does that make, instead of talking over, like, so you'll ask a question like, what am I meant to do here? Like, I really want da da da, or what am I meant to do? And then you might start thinking, well, I could do this, I could do that. You have to shut that up. Just literally shut it up. It's a mechanism we have. Shut
Yep.
it up and listen to the ears of your inner, like listen with your your heart ears. Like our little hearts, they have little ears, and you can listen with your heart, and you'll hear the answers. And sometimes it'll be a sentence, sometimes it'll be an impulse. You might just immediately get an idea to do something. It could come in all sorts of ways, but it's about really having that dialogue with yourself and with the creator, so that you can hear the right step to take that's got nothing to do with anyone else and just got to do with what you actually wish it could be like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really good point. Being hard on yourself is never beneficial. There is zero times ever to be hard on yourself, right? So if that thought comes up, just look at it from this perspective. You have a dendrite in your brain, right? A neural pathway that has used that thought process hundreds of millions of times. So it's really, really easy. And it's just an electrical impulse that goes out down that neural pathway because it's done it so many times before. It doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you wrong. Beating on yourself won't fix it. But what does fix it is catching it, right?
Yeah,
So you hear the term take your thoughts captive, right? You literally you catch it and you say control alt delete essentially, like no
I love
thank
that.
you. We're not going to use that one. We're going to replace it with something new. And it's the process of catching and replacing that will literally dissolve that neural pathway into hot air. It can
Yeah.
take up to 90 days just to start the beginnings of a little nub of a new neural pathway in your
Mm.
brain. So don't expect anything overnight and just know that this is a muscle that we're like going to the gym every day. And over the course of probably 6 months to a year, if you're really diligent, you will have that automatic response towards the positive thought instead of the negative. You'll have
Yeah.
built the structures in your brain to replace that. And that becomes your manifesting mechanism, right? So it again, you bring up a really good point is we can't suppress negative emotions or feelings or thoughts, right? We see
Mm.
them as friends and opportunities that say, here's something to pay attention to notice. You know, if it's a strong emotion, definitely don't ignore that. That's for another video, but you do need to work through these things. But understanding, like you said, the action is required, right? That
Hmm.
perpetual hermit mode or perpetual healing mode isn't necessarily going to advance you. There is a time for healing and a time for recuperation, but usually I would say weeks or months, not much more than months. You likely should probably start moving into some action after a month or two, right? And again to your point, it doesn't have to be the whole plan. If your
Mm.
brain is trying to lay out the whole plan, that's not a
Not
good
work.
thing.
Will
That
not work.
the heart will give you one action, right? So connect, ask the question, remain as king when you're asking a question. How can I do this? What is my next right step? And then take one step. And I like to kind of think of it as guidance, action, guidance,
Mm.
action,
I love
right?
that.
You've got to be balanced. You have to have a little bit of guidance and then take some action. And then from there the guidance will shift and change and then you take another action. You can't get it wrong. Unless you're sitting
Yeah.
there doing nothing like a lump on a log, you can't get it wrong, right? And just
Yeah.
trust yourself.
Yeah,
And
because there's definitely a time and place for the meditation and the journaling and the visualization, and there's a time for the, the hustle and the moving and the pushing and the obsession. That's all fantastic, but as you said, you have to be able to do both, because if you truly like are in faith, you will actually be compelled to take action. But it's about realizing that it's not about what everyone says you should do. It's about, I mean, sometimes these actions that we're guided to take are so illogical, don't make sense, seem like they're not even related, but it's about just doing the one thing that feels right now. And it may not even have to do with the actual goal. Like you might have this beautiful goal and it's like, what's one action I can take now? And you'll be guided. You just get this impulse, this maybe recurring idea that says like, call this certain friend. And they have nothing to do with anything that's going on. And maybe calling them will seem like it does nothing, but then who knows? It could lead you down a path, be invited to a party where you meet a person. You just don't know how life works. So it's about understanding that when you really have faith and you trust that you'll be guided and that everything's working out for you, then you'll be guided to take some form of action. And sometimes it'll be scary. You'll like get the guidance, you're like, oh god, that's scary, but you just gotta do the damn thing and then you'll feel better.
yeah. Yeah, and there are people, I know a lot of people, especially in my community, who struggle with the dark night of the soul. And so I understand that there are places where you feel like I don't have any energy for life, I don't have any motivation. It's very difficult to get yourself up off the couch. So
Mm-hmm.
in those moments, I like to suggest the joy is your compass.
Yes.
You do something fun, do something
Yes.
enjoyable. And I know that there's a little bit of a duality in that, right? Because we're saying it doesn't always feel good. But if
Yeah.
that's what you need to get yourself up and going, focus on self-care and joy to start with. And then you'll find that energy is building, right? There's momentum building. And then you'll have the energy and the courage and the motivation to do the hard things. But it is
Yes.
okay because joy actually is sort of your compass. There's going to be hard
Yeah, it
things
is.
in it, but joy is the compass that leads you towards your purpose. And so starting there is great if you are struggling with
Yeah.
motivation.
And a lot of people who really do struggle like that, it's because you've been forced to do all these things that you hate and you don't want to do, and maybe you have a grudge against yourself and about life and all these things. So we're actually meant to feel harmonious and this inner joy, and doing the things that scare us will often lead us to joy. But yeah, if you're in that space, forget all the things that you think you should do. You're not doing them anyway, probably. So how about you just do something that you're willing to do that actually feels good, that actually helps you and lifts you up. And you'll find that as you start doing more and more of that, then you'll start getting expanded and great ideas, and things will get easier and easier. I mean, I used to have chronic fatigue. The doctors told me I'd be sick with it forever. So I fired that doctor, threw that prescription in the trash, never took one of those sick pills. And I went home, and before I knew anything about healing, I went home and healed myself back to full energy within 8 months. And part of that was forgiving myself for the horrible person that I was growing up. I was like not a very good person. I was very cynical, and from my PTSD, I was very cynical and mean. And so I had to forgive myself for that. And then all these other little things happened that just all came together and brought me back to full energy. And a big part of it was giving myself permission to actually do what I wanted to do and stop doing what I thought I should do. That's a big
Yeah.
part of it.
And notice how that's all connected to your beliefs and your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's amazing how exhausting that negative track in your head can be. And
Massively exhausting.
it's incredible. I had a dark night of the soul and twice actually, and I understood. I had no energy for anything. I had no desire for life, right? And it to your point was like forgiving myself, letting go of those beliefs about what I did wrong in the past, letting go of the past in general and recognizing that the way the world tells us we should do it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being willing to listen and honor our heart's desire and follow our joy. And you bring up such a good point that the world, it shoulds all over us. It tells
Yep.
us we shouldn't have needs, we shouldn't have wants and desires, we should do the job that we don't want to do, we
Yeah.
should self-sacrifice and never take care of ourselves. It's literally the opposite of everything that makes life awesome.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it directly connects, like you said, to PTSD, complex trauma, and that belief that I'm not worthy. And of course, worthiness and abundance go hand in hand. If you
Mm.
believe you're not worthy, you are not going to be able to ask for what you're worth, and you're not going to be able to receive what you're worth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I have a lot of resources to support people on complex trauma. It's a tricky beast. My goodness, you would not believe there's a list I think I have of 38 behaviors, and people go through this list and they're like, "Holy crap, this complex trauma voice, this unworthiness voice is literally running my entire life.
Yep.
Everything I say, everything I do, everything I buy, everything I believe, it all goes through this filter." And we
Yeah.
want to be divinely guided, connected spiritual beings, but without the awareness of what around this unworthiness or complex trauma wound, we're not able to decipher what's real guidance and what is the voice of trauma. And
Yep.
this is one of I believe in my work, what I'm seeing is the number one thing keeping people from stepping into their life purpose and helping to create heaven on earth. And it's
Absolutely.
that's why I've looked forward to this conversation with you, because I know that we we both are supporting people in the same way and stepping into their life purpose. And it's just so huge, the belief
Yeah,
of
it really is.
not enough.
Really, and like that voice of fear that we listen to, it seems like it's true. because we don't understand that we have this divine, profoundly, potently powerful guidance system within us that, like we call it the GPS of your mind, but it's your emotional guidance system. When something feels really heavy and like wobbly and really bad, it's actually your emotions saying, if you keep thinking this thing and acting from this place, it's going to go wrong. And so, but because we're feeling it's true, it says, well, you're not good enough, so you feel wobbly and bad because it's a big fat lie. And your emotional system's saying, no, this is a lie, you are good enough, you are good enough. But when people feel that, it feels so bad, they think it must just be really true. But it's actually just saying, back the F up and start going into a different direction of thought, such as, I am good enough, I am worthy, of course I am, I'm divinely supported, I'm divinely guided, I'm literally made of the God stuff. Like, there is nothing of me that's apart from God. Whatever you have to do, rampage yourself, convince yourself, ask yourself questions, re-examine yourself, get out of those things that say that you're not enough. Because I mean, that was my whole story. But the last time I ever truly bought into it was, I knew the emotional guidance system thing, and I felt it come up, and it just started to take me out like usual. And like, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't show up. And I felt all the shame. And I just pointed at it, like the emotion. I went, wait there, this is heavy, really heavy. It's a lie. And I just dropped it. And like, this is after years' work, but I
Yeah.
just dropped it in that moment. And I'm like, it's not true. And
Yeah.
so I just proceeded about the work that I was guided to do, the videos, the showing up, the speaking my message, sharing what's worked for me, instead of holding back, being selfish, making it about me. Like, me being here today is actually not about me. As much as I like to think it is, it's not. It's about everyone watching, the people that are still going through the trauma, the people that, that I can help. That's to me what this is really about. And that helped me get out of the I'm not good enough story when I stopped making it about me, and I realized it's literally not about me. It's about the people who need the message.
Yeah. Oh, you bring up such a good point. I'm so glad you brought that forward because we oftentimes we tell ourselves, right, if it feels good, then it's right for you. If it feels bad, then it's not right for you. But that often can be the thoughts, not necessarily the thing in front of you. It's the
Yeah.
thoughts and the perception and the story you're telling yourself about the thing in front of you that is
Mm-hmm.
wrong, not necessarily the action that you're being faced with. So I love that because I often recommend, try something on for size. If you're not sure what to do, does it feel good? Does it feel bad? You can do that with your thoughts, right? That
Yeah.
this can, like you said, our guidance system, it's designed to help inform us about what is true and what is not true. And really, at the end of the day, the only thing that's real is love. So if it's
Mm-hmm.
scary, if it doesn't feel good, if it, is telling you, all these bad things are going to happen. If you do this, they're going to judge you and nobody will like you and you won't have any friends and you'll be alone forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the spiral, the downward spiral of catastrophizing, right? That the whole world is going to end because we take this step, and so
Right.
notice that is a lie. That is, and I love that you kind of refer to it like a being or an entity, right? It's almost, I like to call them thought demons. Like, get out of here, like you are
Yeah.
not welcome, and just replace it. It is as simple as a choice, and
Yep.
stepping back and becoming the observer and remembering that, like, these emotions or these feelings, they're actors in a play on a stage, and you're not in the play, you're in the audience watching them, and so you can direct from
Mm.
the audience and say, I see you, right? And just that conscious awareness can shift it in a moment. And when you bring up sort of the feelings around it, and the unworthiness and the thoughts that can come through, and it made me think of the first step in manifestation, right? That it's clarity. It's clarity about what we want, but it's also clarity about how we feel about the thing that we want, right?
Yep.
Because I can say I want a business that changes education across the globe. That's truly one of my goals, right? I can see that, and I also have to see that there's the thought of, like, holy crap, you're trying to boil the ocean, right? So it's as much the thoughts that come with the thing that we are trying to manifest. And so spending a lot of introspection time in journaling and meditation, like you said, and looking at how we shift the perspective of the stories we tell ourselves around the things we're trying to manifest, right? And so it's
Everything.
clarity of emotion as much as clarity of vision is very, very critical. So,
Yeah. And exactly what you just said, the story will determine how you feel. And the stories, all stories, I mean, the stories that we tell ourselves about life, they're ultimately all made up, whether for good or for bad. So if you're like saying, oh, I'm going to do this thing and I'm scared it won't work and then this will happen and these other things, well, it's all imaginary. So you might as well be imagining an actual story that will benefit you. And that can be a little bit hard to do in the beginning, but it's just a practice. And whether it takes you 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. The time's going to pass anyway. So you better start reevaluating what you think is true and start aligning with what you wish to be true. We actually get to change our thoughts to what we wish to be true, take action from that place. Like if you wish that you had a large audience, a large following, or whatever, just as one example, well, then you can't wait for things to change to do that. You have to start acting like you have that audience now, showing up and speaking like you would, even though you're going to be scared. But if you act from the fear, then it means you're going to get the exact thing that you're scared of. Like if you're scared of like falling apart and having no friends, well, if you act from the fear, then something's going to happen. It's going to fall apart. You're going to be isolated and you've got your fear anyway without even having to do anything. But it's when we move forward in love, in expansion, that then we have like God, the divine, backing us, moving us forward, because life is all about life and expansion and living.
Creation. Absolutely. It's so beautiful. It's so fun. And when you finally you allow yourself to meet your own needs, you understand your value and your worth, you follow your joy compass and you realize this is a game, right? It's meant to be
Mm-hmm.
fun. That we
Yeah.
are creators and you may as well create something good if you're going to create. So, and it's a simulation to your point, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
really real. So you may as well just play with it and have fun with it and enjoy life the way it's supposed to be. So, it's so beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. Come join us on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Just start saying yes to your desires, taking that risk and see what happens. Like the universe, God, whichever term you prefer, will catch you. But you have to be willing to take that step first.
Yeah. Yeah. The birds don't look struggle for food and the trees don't look for their water. It comes to them and it will
Yes.
do the same for you. So awesome. Well, I as always enjoy my conversations with you. This is so beautiful. I hope and pray that we have helped somebody out there and that they're willing to embrace and bet money on yourself like you're
Yes.
a horse at the racetrack, right? Because the universe will repay you for that and will recognize that you are all in and you're ready to play this game, and so it will start to bring more opportunity for you. So have fun and
Absolutely.
play the game. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kai. I really appreciate seeing you and chatting with
Yeah.
you and sharing with our audience, and I look forward to future conversations.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me again. This has been a blast.
Wonderful. All right. Have a wonderful day.